Look, listen. I know you're random, right? But just listen. Just hear me for a minute. Just listen for a minute. All right? Just listen.
Hi guys, this is Jason and welcome to the Random Ideas and Thoughts podcast with JAC. JAC stands for Jason Antonio Clark, that's my name. So who am I? I am an engineer by trade, mechanical engineer. I am also a logistician and I have a few other specialties that has given me some experience. But basically this podcast is about discussing our life, society, what's going on around us, giving a view from a male. Right now we're in the times of the woman movement and female empowerment, but I think that there's a void of men speaking up. And I want to say it's not a aspect of just speaking for men or being all against anything contrary to men. It's just giving a perspective, a view of what's going on in the world today by a man. I hope that at least a few people will pick up on it. Agree, disagree is okay. I'm always open to discussing ideas, sharing ideas about what I think, the ideas I have. So the reason why I chose the name Random Thoughts is because I do a lot of meditation, and sometimes I get these ideas that are kind of profound, and not because I think they're profound, but when I share them with some of my friends or colleagues, they actually find them to be kind of interesting, a different way to look at things. So I thought maybe, you know what, I could just share that to a wider audience, and we could discuss it. And I hope that, this is something that I could continue doing. I also think that this podcast, for myself, will be very therapeutic. Sometimes it's good to not only write down your ideas or thoughts or feelings. Sometimes it's great to share them, to speak them aloud, to bring them into being. So this particular episode, just like the rest of my episodes, will be random. There will not be a set format where I'm going to say, today I'm going to speak about this, tomorrow I'm going to speak about that. I could speak about one thing for the entire episode, or I could speak about a series of things. I also want to integrate also DIY, do it yourself stuff as well, because I do have a few things that I could offer some people that could help them save some money at home, whether it be cooking, whether it be cleaning, servicing your car, how best to maintain your vehicles, stuff in engineering and logistics as well. Whatever the mood takes us, I think that's going to be basically it. I also want to say that this is not a platform I'm going to use for any of my personal self-promoting myself or anyone else. The ideas that I am going to speak about are purely my own, and they do not apply to anyone that I'm working for or working with or subcontracted with. So the views of this podcast are that of Jason and no one else's. And that's me. Today, in this first ever episode, I really wanted to talk about something that is very interesting, and I've had a lot of conversations with some friends recently about it, and it's from a male perspective on the difference of how we think as opposed to how women think as it relates to relationships. The issue of the disparity between fathers of the 50s, 60s, 70s and fathers now of the 80s, 90s, 2000s. I do agree that there's been a massive change, but I don't think that society has recognized that change. So, in my experience, I have two daughters, and when my first daughter was born, and it happened with my second one as well, and I shared this idea with a few of my friends who were in the same situation, and they agreed they had the same experience. like something clicked in my brain, something changed, you know? I had this, it was like if nothing that I've done before was important, nothing mattered. What mattered was this little child, bro. And I decided there and then that I would do all I could do to make this child's life better than mine. And that was inclusive of suffering. An idea that I'm willing to sacrifice my plans, my dreams, and my hopes for this little person. And it happened for both of my daughters. And I think that that is something that a lot of people, especially women, don't understand. And I'm not saying that it happens for everyone. And I'm not saying that all fathers are pristine or the best. But I would like to say that I growing up in a single parent home. It was just my mother and my brother. My mother came from a generation where people call them the village rams, where my grandfather had 25 children. And you know, there's no way that one person in an economic time of the 60s and the 40s to support 25 children, and there were people that had more than that. And society became accustomed to a situation where there were always what they call delinquent fathers, right? And it's a cycle. It's a cycle that no one really addressed or really analyzed. But I think this is something I would like to talk about today. So I'm not blaming anyone. They're just stating what I see as truth, right? Or what I have experienced as truth. And there's a situation where we went from this village ram concept, I guess because there was no TV or a lot of electricity or whatever. There was nothing else to do but to have sex and make children. And society got used to that, and society started to cater for all of these single mothers. But what I realized in my time, in the 80s coming up and the 90s coming up, and in the 2000s, I'm seeing that there are a lot of men that are stepping up. A lot of men that want to be not only in their child's life, but positively be there, not to interact with them, to help mold the future. But society and the legal system does not recognize this shift. No one speaks about it. So what happens is the system is now designed to protect women, but there's nothing or very little in the system to address or protect men. And that's something that I think is a very dangerous aspect, because it adds to the situation, it adds to the loops, it adds to the constant perpetuation of this idea that men are delinquent. So then you might have people that are trained to be there, they're trying their best, but the system automatically agrees or decides that a mother is the natural parent or a good parent naturally. And we know that's not always the case, but that's not the point. The point I'm making is that it says that both parents are not equal. It says that both people who decided to have a child do not carry the same responsibility. And I don't think that's true. You know, if you decide to have a child, even if it's a mistake and it happens, you have a choice there and then as two people to support that child and bring up that child, because the child did not ask to be here. The child is here as a result of two adults, hopefully, making a decision. And that responsibility should never be placed on one person. And also that responsibility cannot be seen as being the burden of one person. So even if the relationship does not work out, access should be equal. Access and responsibility should be equal. And there's always an element of hate or anger or malice towards each other that should not play a part within the raising of that child, and it always happens. The unfortunate part about it is that the law only benefits one person in that situation. So the law and society has deemed, no matter what the situation is, that the mother is a person that has a responsibility, or the mother is a person that is the parent. And it's not fair, it's not right. And what it does is that it creates a situation where even if a father wants to be a good father and he's being beaten down by a system that doesn't support or recognize that idea of him being a father or a parent, then what happens? A lot of young people, sometimes they just give up and then they fall into that stigma, that stereotype of not being a good father. And then another aspect of it is if society is deeming that men are in crisis and society is deeming that there are too many single mothers, there's another aspect we're not looking at. If that is the case, who are the persons raising these men? If there are single mothers raising children, then single mothers are raising these men. And something has to be done. Some intervention needs to be put in place to help familial issues, to help families. Even if it means, some social, spiritual intervention as it relates to raising men. I am of the belief that a woman cannot raise a man. I'm also of the belief that a man cannot raise a woman. A woman does not understand what it means to be a man. She might have a perception or idea of what she saw growing up, whether it be good or bad. And a man could only judge or have an idea what a woman is based on his relationships with his mother or sisters or aunts or whatever. But the experience of being a man or woman is that of that particular gender. And I think that is not taken into account in our society. And it doesn't play a role. So then I think the biggest issue is that we don't address the important stuff, which is actually building up families in Barbados. And yes, the issue could be that the parents are not getting along, but there are so many different programs in society to address family planning and that sort of stuff that they're not well funded or they're not well recognized or a lot of people don't know about them. And I think all of this is going on today about politics and elections and being a republic and all these things are nice and dandy, but the main issue we have in our society today is we have a lot of broken families. And if we can fix our families, then we will see a lot of things in society changing. You'll see crime going down. You'll see a lot of mentoring going on, whether it be males to males, females to females, vice versa, or crossways. And I think that's what we need in this society. Another aspect I want to touch on shortly. I don't want to go too deep. I have some friends that have podcasts, and they always told me that when they start mine, don't start off the blocks too dark, too deep, too heavy. Let it be light and fun. But sometimes I just don't like to waste time and just get into the meat of the matter. When I post this, the comments are going to be open. So if you hear it and you disagree with me, it's okay. I have no problem. I don't ever believe that my ideas are absolute. I don't believe in absolution. I believe that there is more than one way to one outcome. There's more than one direction to a goal. And I have no problem with engaging with you as well. I just don't want to be anything contentious. So you can make your point and I could see it or read it and I'll respond to it. Either to you directly, personally, or on the next podcast. And we can go from there. So something else I want to address as well is something that I really want to speak to directly men about. And the reason why I'm doing it is because I said it before. I believe that we have a situation in Barbados, specifically, and also in wider Caribbean and probably in the international arena, where the voices of men are being muddled. My thing is that the movement or a movement should not stifle the advancement of anyone else. I have a saying that I tell my friends that the oppressed always becomes the oppressors. And I remember it's being said, I can't remember if it's Martin Luther King, but the statement says that the substitution, it could have been from Africa as well, South Africa, the substitution of one oppression for another, or one oppressor for another, is not right. And I remember listening to a few podcasts, and there were some women speaking about women's rights. And there was a debate between women and men speaking about the advancement of the genders. And there was one point in the conversation where the guy was making a very valid point as it relates to fairness and equality, the true meaning of equality and equity. And the female's response was so interesting to me, and it hit me to my core. And she basically said, listen, I am not here to defend men's rights. I am not here to defend men's equality. I'm here to speak about women's advancements and women's equality. And if the men in society does not speak up for themselves, then that is not her problem. And she was absolutely right. If it's a fair comment, that's something that other people have to decide. But why leave someone else to stand up for you when you can stand up for yourself? I don't believe that the advancement of women's rights and equality should ever be to the detriment of men's rights and equality. I think that we should support each other in the movement. I have no problem with women's rights. I have no problems with women getting equal pay. I think they should get it. But I do have some ideas and some thoughts about it, just for conversation wise. But she was absolutely correct. So we need men to step up in society and speak out for men. Speak out for the injustices of men. Speak to our men that are not doing as they should, are not doing what's expected of them, which is another conversation altogether. But we need men in society to speak for men, because women are out here speaking, kicking on doors, breaking barriers, raising the roof for women. And we can't sit back and be lost to time and space. It's important that society knows that even though some guys or some men in society may have not done what was expected to be fair, it doesn't mean all of us can be painted with the same brush. So I want to say that I hope that this platform could evolve into something like that. Not solely that, but to be an example of a male in a positive light, doing positive things, speaking to people, people in general. I have no problem with people. We are all human beings here on this same planet, living the same way. And what you think about life is valid and relevant, even if it's not what I believe. Your beliefs are your beliefs. How you see yourself and how you identify yourself is your right. And it shouldn't bother me. I should respect that the same way how you should respect me and what I believe in. And we could just get along, because you know what? Life is already dreadfully hard. Life is already difficult. And there's no need to add more stuff to it. If we strip away titles and we strip away prizes and money and we strip away all of these things that we strive for in life, at the end of the day, we breathe the same air, we bleed the same blood, and we need the same sustenance to survive. So that was my kumbaya moment. And I think I'm going to end the podcast here. It's going to be short, the first one, because I don't want to, go overboard. So this was Random Thoughts and Ideas with JAC. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope we can build a great bond together. Out.
All right. I done know. I say what I had to say. I share my random thought with you. Tell me what you think, though. Tell me what you think. Make sense?